Welcome to the Dope Dad Podcast. This is an unscripted journey for those who are invested in parenting. There's no judgment, there's no BS, just honest conversation about what it really means to be a dad today. It's raw, it's real, and it's unapologetically dope. What's up, everybody? Welcome back from Arizona. You're tuned in to the Dope Dad Podcast. I'm your host, OJ. As always, shout out to Podwork Studios, my producer, Bill. I couldn't do it without you, man. Thanks for always being here for me. Today's a huge episode for me, man. This is a monumental deal for me. I've got my first guest, and my first guest is somebody that I respect, admire, love dearly, unconditionally, and originally I wanted to have this person on my podcast. I didn't think it would happen as quickly as it did, but we'll kind of dive into all that, how this whole thing came to fruition. But I'd like to introduce my oldest daughter, Keridan. Keridan, what's up?
Hi, Dad.
How are you, Mama?
I'm good. How are you?
Always will. Thank you. So a little context to how this whole thing, I guess, evolved from yesterday is my daughter calls me every day after school. She gets out of school at 2:20. Every day between 2:23 and 2:29, I keep my phone close, and she hits me up, man, and we just chop it up. We kind of talk about her day, what's going on with me, and just whatever happens. So yesterday, you call me, and it was about 2:28. We talk for maybe 25, 30 minutes, right? We're talking about school, we're talking about life, we're talking about relationships and all sorts of shit, and it kind of dawned on me, I guess, like through the conversation, we're basically doing a podcast right now, right? Yeah. So we did like a last minute audible, and I was like, yo, you want to come hang with me tomorrow and do a podcast and check this out? And
here we are.
Yeah, there it was. So obviously I know you well. I know the conversation. I know kind of where this is headed, but just for the viewers out here, the people who are listening and tuned in, a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm 16. I turned 17 in May. I'm a junior now. I'll be a senior next year, which is kind of weird. So
Last
it's like,
year.
I know. And I feel like now I'm like, everything's starting to feel a lot more real since I'm going to be an adult soon, or I guess seen as an adult soon. So I guess like I just want to come on here before I'm officially an adult, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's tough, huh?
it is.
Like the realization that we all get older, right? Like none of us are exempt from father time and chasing us down. So I guess that's a lot of the conversation that we had yesterday was we started talking about the fact that, you know, there are kids that are going to school or that are around you in your life that appear or post things on social media suggesting that, you know, they know what college they're going to, they've got things figured out, they know exactly what their long-term career is going to be. For the record, social media is lying to you. But that can be intimidating, right? Or make you feel like you're being left behind, or like you have your own insecurities about that, because we've talked about it, but you don't know exactly where you're going to be. And for the record, like that is just fine, and we'll figure that out in time.
Yeah.
What type of stuff are people saying? Like, what is it that makes people feel like they got it so figured out, you think?
Well, I mean, they all kind of like, whenever the question's asked, like, oh, what do you want to do after high school? Like, everyone seems to already know, and I kind of feel like behind, I guess, because I have kind of no idea what I want to do. Like, I know, like, it's changed throughout, like, when I was little. Like, when I told myself that I wanted to be a singer in, like, elementary school, that's definitely changed from now, and my interests have kind of changed over time, too. I mean, I still love music, but it's not really something I want to pursue per se.
That element of it anyway.
Yeah.
Right. It might end up being musically involved, right? Like
yeah.
we talk about, you know, production or owning a studio and stuff like that. So
yeah.
there are things around music that I think that interest you, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like I kind of feel behind, I guess, because I don't really know what I want to do after high school, and everyone already seems to know like which college they want to go to and which colleges they're going to apply to next year, and I have literally no clue where I want to go. Like,
is college important to you?
I think so, yeah. Like, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say that it's important to me now, especially when I'm just trying to get done with high school. I just want to get out. But then I also don't want to just jump straight into work after high school either. Like, I don't know. I think I'm kind of stuck in that, like, I want to stay in high school because I just want to keep being a kid, but I also want to get out of high school and be done with it. But I don't want to be an adult yet, so.
Dude, this is that critical phase to everybody out there where it's monumental, right? Like you can't wait to grow up, but don't really realize what you're leaving behind once you become a full-time adult and you can no longer display like a ton of childish behaviors. It's a tough transition, man. I don't think that it's imperative that you know what you want to do right now. We'll figure it out. Do you feel pressure from me and mom to like steer you one way or another? Do you feel like pressure from us to hurry up and decide what you want to do?
No. I think you guys are both very like supportive and trying to help me figure out kind of what I want to do. I know it's not really like a big topic yet at home, what I want to do when I get out of high school, but I'm sure next year it'll definitely be a lot more talk about it.
Sure.
Just so we can get on the same page and see what I want to do after senior year.
Man, it's crazy to even think about that, right?
I know.
I think it was earlier this year. You were like, "Hey, this will be the last summer I'm going into," you know, and,
I know.
and next year, like when I'm done with summer, like graduated. Mm-hmm. Bro, I'm gonna tear up your graduation too. It's gonna be amazing.
Oh, I know.
I'm gonna try to bring so many people on. It's such a fucking
Yeah, I
nuisance.
know you're going to.
So let's talk a little bit about school right now. So we did public school till the end of 4th grade.
Yeah.
5th grade through 9th grade, you did a charter school. Mm-hmm. And then you did public school, back to another public school.
Yeah.
So we bounced around a little bit.
Yeah.
You've gotten your taste of education.
I have, yes.
Let's talk a little bit about what you remember about your experience at Kiva.
I remember loving it.
Yeah?
I remember thinking it was the coolest thing ever. I do remember the Red for Ed, and my teachers weren't really there like the last like year that I was there. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my memories from Kiva are just like friends. Like I just remember like all the like arts and crafts, like the parents coming in and we'd always like, you know, make all these arts and crafts. Like remember the rock that I painted too?
Dude, yeah, the llama rock.
Yeah.
I actually have a photo of that. I was looking at it not long ago.
Really?
Yeah.
I was talking to one of my friends about it too, but
I think they redid the school. I don't know if it's there.
yeah,
anymore.
I know. That's what we were all talking about.
At least we got photos.
Yeah. But yeah, like a lot of my memories from Kiva are just, you know, the friends that I made along the way. And now like I see most of them at other public schools or like when I go out, I'll bump into them and it's kind of like, it's weird. Like they're not obviously the same people that I remember them being when we were,
We all changed.
you know, 8 years old, but
Yeah. It's cool, man. I like that your memories associated with like early schooling is about the social aspect and environment, right?
yeah.
Oftentimes people, I think, put a lot of pressure on kids to hurry up and adapt and evolve and learn this. And, you know, this kid can't pronounce an R or whatever the case may be, you know what I mean? And so it's like there's immediate kind of, I guess, like pressure from the beginning. But I like the learn how to be a human. Learn how to interact with others, right? Don't poke that kid in the fucking eye. Like, you know, this kid's not eating, like share some lunch or, you know, get off the swing and let the other kid or, you know, like it's cool to be able to learn how to adapt and socialize in an environment where maybe not everybody's trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
You know? So that's really cool. And then we got an opportunity to put you over at a Great Heart School, which is a charter school here in Arizona, which we were on a waiting list for. We were super excited to get you in over there. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I do remember being really upset with you guys that I had to leave for my last year with all my friends. And it was so sad that I couldn't just like, you know, technically graduate 5th grade with all of them. I was devastated that it was either like I leave halfway through 3rd grade or I leave like in 4th grade, or I leave beginning of 5th grade. So that was pretty upsetting. And when I moved over there, it did kind of take me a second to adjust just because the people there were way different from the people at public school. And people had already like established friend groups and stuff too. So I had to like try and figure out like where I fit in. Luckily, I found, you know, 2 people that I was able to get really close with. But I actually ended up loving Cicero, or the charter school that I went to. It was great. I think that I met a lot of awesome people there too, and the education was definitely amazing as well too. I think a lot better than public school. I think I learned a lot more there too.
More structured, more
Yeah.
passionate, invested teachers? Like, what was it about the education that you felt was more beneficial?
I think both. I feel like it was also, for me, I kind of struggled to focus on what I'm like learning too. And so the teachers would kind of spend one-on-one time with me as well to help me understand what I'm learning, especially with math, because I'm not good with math. And so it made me feel good and like accomplished when I was actually able to understand what I'm learning, or actually able to do the math and I'm getting a good grade in math. So
Yeah, it's pretty big victory when you like shed that fear and you start to actually like comprehend what's happening. It's
Yeah.
embarrassing, I think, as at any age in life, right? But it's embarrassing, I think, for a youth who doesn't really like connect with whether it's like English or, you know, Spanish or math or science.
yeah.
If there's that barrier and you feel like you don't get it, like it's embarrassing to try to raise your hand and say, hey, I'm
get
the
it.
odd man out here and I don't understand this.
Yeah.
Right? Like you feel like you're highlighting yourself as being unintelligent or something, which isn't the case, and everybody else here knows that. But the fact of the matter is, like, it's tough being a kiddo. That's not easy. I do remember that whole Red for Ed thing too, dude.
Yeah.
That was tough, man. And for the record, like, dude, all about teachers getting fair pay. I mean, they're literally educating and shaping the next generation of people. I feel like if there's one band of employment that is unfortunately like super underpaid, I would say it's education, man.
Yeah.
If I had copious amounts of money, I would absolutely try to help provide more tools and resources for teachers. A lot of those teachers, man, spend their own money on books and classroom decor and stuff
Yeah.
like that to like make it special for the kids. It's pretty heartbreaking, dude. Like, honestly, you know what I mean? So you leave Great Hearts in the end. Let's talk about the size of the campus. It was a small campus.
So small.
How many?
I don't know. I mean, a couple hundred kids, maybe less than that, honestly.
So like small town shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did that do from a social environment? Friendships, whatever the opposite of friendship is, things like that.
Well, everyone's in your business. Like everyone, even kids that I didn't know or kids that were in like grades below and like younger than me, like all knew my business. And it was kind of annoying, but also like that's my fault because I talk to everyone.
Your secret's safe with me.
Yeah. But it just kind of sucked because it's like if one group of people maybe had a problem with one person, then like they'd go around and kind of tell the other group of people like, hey, like don't talk to this person. Then that person's left with no friends, you know?
Yeah,
So
I do. That's tough.
it kind of sucks. Like you don't want to just be at a school where no one really wants to like be friends with you. Like I had a friend that transferred over that it was really hard for her in the beginning to kind of like figure out where she stood. And regardless what everyone else said when she showed up, like I wanted to be her friend. I thought she was cool. I remember we sat next to each other in English. We laughed like 3 different times, like crying, laughing when I first met her. And I was like, oh yeah, she's gonna be my friend for sure. And we still talk all the time. So
So you saw somebody who probably was set up for failure and still you went out, tried to be her friend?
oh yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Admirable. I like that.
Yeah.
That's something I always love about you. You like find somebody who's not fitting in and try to help them feel welcome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, they're cool.
Most of the kids at that school, white, Asian, black,
Yeah.
mixed race, what?
It was mostly white kids, a few Mexicans, but I mean, that was mostly just my friend group was a lot of Mexicans and white kids, but there wasn't really a huge dynamic, I guess, of different kids there. It's
Yeah.
mostly just white kids.
Interesting. A lot of Middle Eastern kids there though too, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My
What's
best
up?
friend, too. So.
Yeah. Shout out Shadi.
Yeah.
That's
Hi,
what's up,
Shahad.
man. So one thing that I really remember about you transferring to Great Hearts, and I was going to tell this story another time, but when you started attending Great Hearts, there was a student that they paired you with as a new student going to that school that would like show you around the campus, and they would show you like where you go for Lyceum and where the auditorium is and where your classes are and stuff like that. And so I remember like keeping close tabs on you with mom and, you know, like, yo, how is it? What's going on?
Yeah.
And you kept talking about this girl. Dude, I want to say her name was Grace. But she was like the person that you got paired with. And
Okay.
I was like, yo, how is she? You were like, she's cool, man. She's great. Yeah, she's awesome. She like, showed me around. She sat with me at lunch, whatever. And that's one thing that I really respect about that school is that like the people that were invested in that school were like mad invested in that school.
Oh, I know.
Right? Like they were like super gun ho. They wanted to create an environment and a culture that people subscribed to and bought into, right?
Yeah.
And it was authentic. It wasn't bullshit. It was like actual school spirit. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you kept talking about this girl, Grace, and so we like pull up to school, and I'm dropping you off, and you're like, boom, there's Grace, and so I look over, and it's uniform required, the school,
Yeah.
right? Like everybody looks the same, so it doesn't matter who you're pointing at; they all look the same.
Yeah.
And there was like 5 kids, and 4 of them were white, and 1 of them was black, and you're like, there's Grace, and I was like, which one? And you're like, the girl with the braid. And it was the black girl.
Yeah.
And as an adult, I was like, the easiest way for me to identify who the person was that you were talking about was by skin color. But even you in 5th grade, like you didn't even see that. Like that wasn't even like something that you were even acknowledging. You were just like, her hair was different than the girl that had like a ponytail or that had like long straight hair or whatever. And I remember like checking myself and being like, damn, that's powerful. That's dope. Like you hadn't been exposed to like any type of racial elements that made you even like identify this person by skin color.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It restores my faith in humanity, right? Like it gives me hope for the future. And also kind of like check myself like, damn, bro, like, is that how I see people? And the reality is no, but it was the easiest way to identify somebody. I don't know. It was like something that I've always like carried with me. I've talked about it. I've talked about it with Mom, and obviously like I respect the hell out of you. Like it was a really powerful moment for me. But I remember that. All right, so Great Hearts, you run your course there. In the end, you're like, hey, I want to try a different school. You're getting older. You want a bigger campus. We have conversations back and forth about not being anchored to such a small environment, and you wanted to kind of flourish. So we put you at another school, and it's your first taste of public school since you had been at this small campus, really, really, high performing, academically driven, studious environment. And here you land in a campus that has tens of thousands of children, right? Like, I mean, there's
so big. Yeah.
it's
Well, I mean,
huge.
compared to that school, it's way bigger. It's one of the smaller public schools though, which is like crazy to me.
It is, right?
Yeah.
It was like a labyrinth, right? I mean, I remember touring the school
Oh yeah.
touring the school with you, and it was
Huge.
crazy. What's the biggest difference for you?
Probably the education and how many people there are, obviously. Like, the education when I moved over there and I was taking classes, like, I had already taken some classes that kids were just now taking in my grade. And I forgot that Great Hearts, they teach you, like, a grade ahead. So I felt prepared, but when I got into the other, like, honors classes that I was taking or the AP class that I took, I feel like I wasn't really like challenged enough, I mean, I feel like I still don't really feel that challenged either. I feel like math is the only kind of challenging one, just because I've always kind of struggled with math, but it's harder because there's so many kids in a classroom. The teacher can't be with everyone all at once. So for me, I really, really, really have to pay attention to like, try and like understand it and like work through the problems as much as I can and ask questions. So I definitely ask a lot more questions now, just so I understand what's happening. Like I don't feel behind.
You probably feeling the effects too of, more limited resources with a public school than with a charter school or a private school,
Yeah.
What's the dynamic like? Talk about the kids. What are the kids doing?
Well, I love the kids. I think it's awesome. I love my friends.
Hard to fit in, easy to fit in.
I think it's pretty easy to fit in at public school. There's like a bunch of different groups of people that you can hang out with, and I feel like you don't have to be like limited to just one. And like when I get bored with one friend group, I have, 3 others that I could go to.
Yeah.
And I like that. Sometimes I just want to sit in a classroom with my one friend, and then sometimes I want to go sit at lunch and be with all my other friends,
Be more social.
Yeah.
Kids smoking, kids drinking, kids vaping. What's up?
Yeah.
Talk
all
about
of
that.
it.
Yeah.
Just don't go into the bathrooms at public school. That's all I'm going to say. Like,
What's happening in the bathrooms?
you're not going to find, if you need to use the restroom, you're not going to find like a bathroom to actually use.
Stalls are occupied with
People smoking. People don't usually drink at school, but I mean, I've seen people bring drinks to school. Just it's mostly smoking in the bathroom. You can smell it too from outside.
what ages?
Like freshmen, so that's what, like 14, 15,
Damn.
I think. Yeah.
And is that like the in thing? Like most kids are doing that? Most kids are
Oh yeah.
vaping or smoking? Are they smoking cigarettes or like just vaping?
I haven't seen any cigarettes, but it's mostly vaping and, weed. That's about it.
People smoking weed at school?
Oh yeah. You
Yeah?
can smell it for sure from outside the bathroom.
And teachers don't do anything? Or kids getting caught all the time? Kids getting suspended all the time? Like what's happening there?
If you're not good at hiding it, then you're going to get caught. The security guards are always like watching everybody. If they see a huge group of kids like go into a bathroom, they're going to follow.
Really?
Yeah. And they'll stand in the bathroom and they'll check everyone once they're leaving. Yeah.
So kids at school using drugs, I mean, maybe drinking, vaping. Is that just kind of the culture? If you don't do that stuff, are you still fitting in, or is it like the majority of the people are doing that stuff?
I think it depends on which friend group you're in. It's definitely more normal now, or I mean, for us, it's normal.
Sure, yeah, I get it. Yeah.
For everyone to be smoking or drinking, especially on the weekends too. Like that's an activity that everyone participates in, like at parties and stuff as well. But yeah, if you're not really drinking or smoking either with your friend group, then they won't really invite you to stuff either. So
You smoke and drink?
nah.
You feel the backlash of not being invited to things because you're not a participant in drugs and alcohol?
Sometimes, but I'm proud with my decision to not smoke and drink. I think I have more fun not doing it. I mean, I like hanging out with my friends, even if they are drunk or high or whatever the case may be. And I like to drive everyone too. I don't have a problem with it, honestly.
Yeah.
But it does kind of suck too, though, with everyone like kind of in their own world. Like I'm just here, guys.
You see how drugs and alcohol change people?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like you guys go to the party sober, you show up to the party, people aren't there yet, and then they get fucked up, and you watch like their behavior change and
Yeah.
some of their decision making. Mm-hmm. Bro, that's tough, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm proud of you, man. I told you a million times, I'm so fucking proud of you for not doing what's normalized, right? Like it takes courage to be true to yourself and to fight the urge to fit in, right? Like because the easiest way to fit in is to do what everybody else is doing,
Yeah.
right? To stay true to yourself and be consistent and not just do what everybody else is doing for whatever reason, right? Morals, values, family members have fucked it up for you. You've seen what drugs and alcohol do. You know what I mean? Like it's tough, man. It's tough to come to that conclusion, and I respect you, and I admire your decision. I'm so proud of you, man. I know it's not easy.
Thank you.
What about sex? Kids having sex at school?
Yeah.
Not necessarily at school, but
No,
kids
yeah.
at school are talking about sex and having
Yeah.
sex. Yeah. What ages?
I'd say also freshman year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people talk about it. Is it like common conversation and stuff that pops up?
Yeah, kind of. People will talk about what happened that weekend, and they'll be like, "Oh, did you hear that so-and-so hooked up with you know who?" And hooking up now isn't just like, like making out with someone or like my definition is just making out with someone. But for them, it's literally like all of the above. Like they're doing everything.
Oral sex and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. That's tough, man.
Yeah.
You think the kids' parents know? Like, is this happening to people's homes? Are parents around? Is this...
I'm not sure if parents are around, but it's definitely happening at people's homes. Yeah, I kind of don't think their parents know. I'm going to be completely honest. Same with like the smoking and drinking too.
Yeah.
I don't think they know.
I feel like you would have to be borderline oblivious to not think that your children are doing that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they're not having honest conversations, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you and I talk, I mean, we talk like this, we have conversations all the time.
Yeah.
We're a little more like refined because we have an audience right now, listeners,
Yeah.
viewers. But do you think our relationship is different than other kids and their parents, or other kids and their parents connected? Are they talking? Are they like involved in their kids' lives? Is it weird and abnormal for people to have relationships with their parents? Like, what's it like in your experience?
I think me and you have like a different like connection or relationship. Like other kids aren't very close with their parents or never really have been since like middle school. A lot of my friends don't really feel like comfortable talking to their parents either, or they just like feel like their parents don't really listen to them, so they just kind of shut off from them. So when I have people over or I have friends over, they like to talk to you and mom. Like you guys like listen to them and give them like someone to actually like talk to.
It kind of breaks my heart.
I know, me too. I wish like that they had someone that they could feel comfortable talking to.
Totally. Yeah, it's tough. Divorced families, like a lot of your friends and stuff, or parents are just still together?
Majority of my friends, their parents are together still, but there's some with divorced parents as well.
You notice a difference, like in the kids, like the dynamic of how they behave or interact with other people, or?
Not really. It's kind of the same.
Yeah.
I think it really just depends on their relationship with their parents, because even if their parents are divorced, they could be divorced from their parents and the relationship that they have with them, you know? Like, they won't really talk to them anyways.
It's like such a huge fear for me as a parent.
Oh, I know, but I don't think that could ever happen with us.
Well, I certainly hope not. Like, I'm invested here. I hope you guys are too.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest fears for me, like as a parent, and I talked to you about it, you know, I talked to your sister about it, I definitely talked to mom about it, is, dude, in 2 years, you can make a decision if you want to leave our home. And I hope you don't. You're always welcome to stay at our house. As long as you want, you'll always have a space. But you could, in theory, like leave our home. And you could go to start doing your own experiences and living your own life. And it would be up to you when you want to come and see us. Right? And I never want to damage the relationship or drive a wedge between us to where you don't want to come and visit, right? Like you decide that, hey, I'm good. I'm going to spend this weekend over here instead of over with you guys, you know? And I know that eventually, like, you'll have your own family and go on and do your own thing. But like, there are times when, you know, my parents call and I like look at the phone and I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you see it. And I guess my biggest fear is you being me and me being that phone call. And you looking at that phone call and being like, I'm good. I just don't want to deal with him right now. You know what I mean? Like, I always want to be able to, I don't know, I want to be around you, man.
Yeah.
I love you. I love spending time with you, you know? Like, a lot of people, when you guys are growing up, they're like, hey, well, you know, we'll watch your kids so you and your wife can go out and, like, do this and do that and go on vacation. Like, I didn't have kids so I could pawn them off on other people. Like, that's not my angle. Like, I'd rather spend time with you than with 95% of the adults out there, bro. Like, you're cooler, you're more fun, you're funnier. Like, we have a better connection. The same shit makes us laugh, that makes us cry. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just, I don't know, eating pancakes and watching YouTube shorts would be a better night with you than it would be going out with a bunch of other people, you know? So I don't know. I'm terrified to lose that, but the reality of you getting older and moving into your own independence is starting to really, I guess, kind of hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's definitely a bigger fear that I have. Let's dive in a little bit and talk about work.
Okay.
You work.
I do.
That's pretty kick-ass. Mm-hmm. How was that?
At first, I think I was a little scared too, especially because I was going to work with you. Not that you're.
But we
scary,
never. Okay, hold on. But we never really like work.
No, I know.
Se.
But what I'm saying is, like, I know that you're always really busy too, and like where you work. Like when I was gonna go work at the first restaurant, I was nervous because it's definitely a lot more strict, I feel like. So I was kind of nervous because I like to goof off. I will admit that.
You're a kid.
Yeah. So I was afraid that maybe I wasn't gonna like live up to their expectations.
Oh. You did, for the record.
But well, I'm glad. Like I see that now. I think that they definitely helped shape the worker that I've become too. So forever grateful for that experience as well. And I love that restaurant. So
yeah. How many restaurants have you worked at now?
3.
Damn.
Yeah.
Full-time, part-time?
I don't know. Would you say full-time or part-time?
I would say part-time.
Part-time,
Because
yeah.
it's only a couple days a week and it's only a few hours at max. So
Yeah.
full-time student,
Yeah.
part-time employee. But in the summer, you actually worked quite a bit more to stack up some money. Mm-hmm. What you saving that money for? You spending that money? You saving that money?
Saving it. I don't really spend my money. I hate spending my money.
Why?
I feel so much guilt when I spend my money. Especially, okay, here's the thing. I can spend my money on other people and have no problem with it.
Common problem.
No problem with it.
Yeah.
When it comes to me and I'm like, oh, this is cool, it could literally be like $5. I'll be like, do I want it or do I need it? And then I'll be like, no, I can put it back. So I never buy anything that's just for me because, like, I want to save my money for when I really, really need it. I'm going to be like in a time where I'm like, oh my gosh, I really need to get this, like desperately, whether that's food, you know what I mean? Like, or something else. But I'd rather not spend it on something dumb that I'm probably not going to ever use ever again. You know what I mean? So.
Who do you think taught you that?
I don't know. I think that since also I worked for the money, I don't want to like waste it either for no reason.
Do you notice a difference between spending someone else's money and spending your own money?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
So I'm sorry.
Lesson learned. That's what I'm here for. Lesson learned.
So thank
That's
you.
Awesome. Happy to help in the evolution and the education of finances.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Once you start working for your own money, you're like, holy shit, man. I really worked hard for this amount of money, and I don't want to carelessly just discard it, and then all of a sudden it's gone, and you don't have anything to show for it except, you know,
the hours I spent.
Yeah, some fast food and some stinky wrappers in the bedroom, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's interesting. Most of your friends work?
They're now starting to work, but nowhere crazy, you know, fast food places, that's about it.
How do you feel like working has helped you understand what it's like to adult? And I mean, it's not like you're working with a bunch of kids, you're working with a bunch of adults, right?
Yeah.
People who are in their, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, people who have been doing hospitality for a long time. Mm-hmm. What's that like for you working with a bunch of adults instead of a bunch of kids your age?
I think it's a better experience, honestly. I love to work, though. I think it's so much fun. But the people I work with, they are very passionate about their work, too, I feel like.
Yeah.
They don't mess around either. They have a lot of structure. So I think that's helped me become a good worker as well because I surround myself with that environment. And so I feel like I reciprocate that same,
work ethic
yeah.
and integrity. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really cool, man. I'm excited for your sisters to start working.
Me too.
And for the listeners out there, the way that this whole thing kind of came about is that we were going to a work meeting. I brought my kids, like I always try to bring my kids if I'm conducting any type of like public speaking or anything like that. I want the kids to be there to see me, to kind of like interact with adults and kind of like lead meetings and stuff like that. So we stopped to get some bagels and, man, we just had like the worst experience, huh? It was awful. So there was a younger kid, teens, and she was behind the counter, and we stopped, and we like the sugary bagels, like the blueberries and the strawberries and like the cinnamon crumbs. Those ones slap,
yeah,
right?
Those are so good.
So we stop, and they were empty of, say, the cinnamon ones, and I'm like, hey, do you have any more of these in the back? And she just kind of like leaned over and looked, and she's like, nah. I'm like, dude, I was so pissed. I was like annoying. Such a baby. I'm like, come on, man. Like, as an adult, like, even if you don't have them, you do a courtesy, right? Like, it's a fake out. You walk to the back, you look at nothing, and you come back and say, oh, I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, we don't have any more of those today. They're so good. We sold out, right? But there was none of that. I mean, she was a kid. And so reluctantly we buy whatever bagels are left, and we make our way down to the checkout thing, and Keridan was like, hey, is it cool if I get one of these like lattes or something, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right? And she's like, yeah, my friends, bring these lattes, they say they're so good. I'm like, yeah, for sure. And I mean, it looked like an atom bomb went off by the coffee machine. There was like coffee and milk and shit everywhere, like obviously had been in action that day. I'm like, hey, can we get one of these, whatever, mocha frappuccino things? And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, the coffee machine doesn't work. Dude, we're both just like, you got to be kidding me. And I'm like looking at the backdrop here, you know, the counter space, and there's like, you know, 2% milk and things everywhere. And I'm like, unreal, man.
Yeah.
And I was so offended. Honestly, I was so disappointed. So we pay and we leave. And like, I'm kind of an old brat, and I've been in the hospitality industry anyway. So it like rubbed me the wrong way in so many different ways. But ultimately, like, we sat in the car, and I don't even think we moved for a couple minutes. And I'm like, I called my wife, and I'm talking to Keridan. I'm like, could you imagine? So Keridan was like 14 at the time, maybe 15.
Yeah.
But she's about to start work. And I'm like, could you imagine if this person was responsible for training you on how to interact or how to work or how to behave with customers of the business? I don't know. Like, it was so alarming. It like shook me to my core. I'm like, dude, I can't have somebody who cares so little responsible for your development. And I mean, could you imagine if that person was like, here's how you act if somebody comes up. If you don't want to get it, just tell them no. You know, if you don't feel like making a coffee, just tell them that it is like the machine's broken or something. You know, because she probably trained somebody.
Yeah.
And somebody fucking trained her. Like, dude, it breaks my heart, man. And so I called my wife. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry I told you that I would never bring the girls to work with me, but she has to. Like, you have to. You had to work at least 1 year with me. And it didn't necessarily mean like under my supervision, but I wanted you to get exposure to people who were authentic, who were passionate, who worked with integrity, who cared. You know, because that's important to me. I don't want your first working experience or exposure to interacting with adults and in society to be so careless and reckless. And like, that's somebody's business. Somebody put millions of dollars into running a company, and this person is the face of their company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I don't know. I think about that a lot. I mean, you and I talk about business a lot, and you know what it would be like to represent our own brands and stuff. And I don't know. It was really upsetting. And I'm really proud of like the growth that you've done. That's why I've had you work at 3 different locations, because I want you to get exposure to how this business operates and how this business operates and how this business operates and what the different kind of like fundamentals are. And though the core values are all the same, the operations are different, right? The way that you interact, the clientele, the demographic, everything's different. And so I don't know. I think it's been great exposure for you. You've clearly taken the baton and just ran with it, and you've flourished and continue to evolve and grow. And obviously, like, you know, I keep close conversation with the managers who have been responsible for your development, and I ask them how you're doing, and they're like, man, she's awesome. She's pleasant. She's, you know, a joy to have around. She gets it. She's tuned in. She shows up. You know, she doesn't complain and whine. And a lot of people have a lot to say, and so when you just kind of show up and do the work, especially after a long day of school, it's admirable and it's rare. So, yeah, appreciate that. All right, man. Well, I think we're going to tap out for today.
Okay.
And I wanted to take an opportunity to say thank you so much for joining me here
Thanks for having me
on the podcast. It's been awesome talking to you about work, about school, and just kind of about what it's kind of like being a kiddo right now. It's not easy. And I didn't know that about the Kiva thing, that you were so upset.
What?
When I transferred you out of Kiva.
You didn't know that? How did you not know that?
I mean, not to that degree.
Oh, I was so upset.
When you're 16 and it's still there, like.
Yeah. Well, it's not like I'm going to forget about it.
Hopefully we can move on from it.
We can.
I'm sorry.
I moved on from it.
I'm sorry. It was less of a conversation at the point in time and more of an opportunity for maybe like stronger education.
Yeah.
And I hope you see the value in that now, but at the time I'm sure it was hurtful and disruptive and appeared to be careless.
Well, now I appreciate it, you know. But then I remember just being really upset about it.
Thanks for going with the flow. I love you, Mama.
I love you too, Dad.
All right. For the listeners, the viewers, thank you so much for tuning in today. It's been an awesome episode of the Dope Dad Podcast. I'm here with one of my favorite people in the entire world, man. We'll be back at some point in the future with some more content for you. Like, subscribe, listen, tell a friend, show a friend, drop a comment, tell us your questions, your comments, what your experience is going to school, having kids that are going to school. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll tune in again. Keep it real. Thank you for joining us on the Dope Dad Podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to share it with a friend. You can support the show by giving a like, sharing, and subscribing, and you can find us on YouTube or wherever you're getting your podcast fix. If there's content you'd like to hear more of, please leave a comment. We'll make sure we try to get it in the show. Continue to tune in for more dope guests and real conversation.